I am now. Hi guys, I'm really sorry. I have a little technical difficulty happening on my end and my camera won't rotate the way I want it. So my cameraman John is going to stand over my shoulder here and make sure we've got the right directioning happening here for our live video tonight. I hope everybody had a great day and that your Monday went well. It's always fun to start a new week, I suppose. Let me just grab my notes really quick because I didn't write out the direction sheet like I normally do. Okay, so just to review what supplies you should have handy, I'm going to move this for a second because I have black cardstock. Against black cardstock won't really look that great. All right, so you should have a piece of black cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 11, and you should have a score line at 4.5 inches and 5.5 inches. So I don't know if it's going to be really hard to see a little score line in black paper, but basically from this edge, go to 4.5 and then go 1 more inch to 5.5. Hi, Kathy, Joe, how are you? So you make those 2 score lines, okay? And then you should have 2 pieces of neutral, either white or vanilla, that are 4 by 4 1/4. So 2 of those. You want a piece of designer series paper that is 3 by 4 1/2. And then you wanted a piece of cardstock that I believe I said to be the same as the base or else be a contrast color to your DSP. So mine is also black and that is 2 by 3 1/4. And then you want some kind of shape that eventually will take up the surface area of about a space that's 2 by 2 or up to 2.5 by 2.5. So I know I said square in quotation marks, but that just meant square area, surface area, or what's the word I'm looking for? Is that basically what I'm looking for, honey?
What are you saying?
Right, taking up it's like a square, 2.5 inch square, but it doesn't have to be square. So
Okay.
I'm sure there's some sort of geometrical term that I'm not coming up with. But.
Okay.
And then you should also have a length of ribbon around. I would just truthfully just grab your spool of ribbon because I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this before we even start stamping, and that'll help you decide how long yours should be. Okay, so the first thing I want you guys to do is take that cardstock that we scored and just, I'm going to take my black out again. Let's do those score lines. So that's like folded in half like normal. Now at that 4 1/2 mark, you're going to bend it back the other direction. Okay, and then crease that score line. So you're going to have something that ends up kind of looking like a little Z. Sort of see that? Okay. Hi, Carol. So fold in half on the 5 1/2 and then back on the 4 1/2. Now you have 2 choices here. We're eventually going to glue this down so that they stay attached. So you can either put your ribbon here first right now and tie it around, or you can tie it around the whole card from the back side. Okay, so that's the decision you need to make right now before you glue that shut. Do you want the ribbon showing all the way around, or do you just want it to show to the front? So if you did it inside, you'll still get the ribbon and the bow on that part, but you won't have anything on the back side. Okay, so that, again, that's the decision you want to make right now. Okay, so put your ribbon in or not, and then grab your adhesive and run it along that 1 inch spot that was between your 2 score lines. Okay, and then you're just going to fold that back over. You can give it a little burnish either with your fingernail or your bone folder. And now those 2 pieces should be permanently attached, so you have just smaller opening than what you might normally have. Okay, so here is where your 2 pieces of neutral cardstock are going to come into play. So one of them is going to go on the front and one of them is going to go on the inside. And remember, they're not a square, so make sure you have the 4 and the 4 1/2 going the right direction. So the 4 is the short way and the 4 1/4 is the more long way. And you're just going to leave a little bit of a border around like so. And then same thing for the inside. Hello, there we go. Didn't want to go today. All right, so same thing for the inside. And then your inside is basically done until you want to add your sentiment or your handwriting or whatever you're going to do with that. Okay, so that is all done. Now you're going to take your piece of designer series paper, and mine currently is black and white, but I would like to add a little bit of color to mine. So I'm going to show you how I can do that with some sponging. So I'm going to take my Blushing Bride ink pad, and I'm going to take my Stampin' Sponge. And in case you haven't stamped with me in a while, this is how I do my sponges. I do them just for one for each color, so I keep track of what I've used. So I take that circle sponge and I kind of cut it up into these little
Pie shapes.
Pie shapes, thank you. I was going to say cubes, but I'm like, it's not a cube. Then I punch out a piece of cardstock, any shape, doesn't really matter, and write the cardstock, or the color on it, and then I staple it to the sponge. So this serves two purposes. One, it tells me what color ink is on the sponge. And two, it gives me a spot to hold on to without getting my fingers all inky. Because if you're touching the inky sponge, you're going to end up getting your fingers inky. So here's my Blushing Bride one. So all you're going to want to do is open up your ink pad, get a little ink on it, and there we go. So I'm just going to add a little bit of color to the ones that look, I'm going to say the most rose-like, I guess. I'm not a very good... what's the word, horticulturist or whatever you want to call it. So there we go. I just added a little bit of color to my DSP by doing that. Okay. This would also be a really nice way to blend off some edges of your white if you want to, or something like that. Just a little bit of sponging. And if you notice, I like to start off the cardstock a little bit and work toward it. If you just plunk it straight down, sometimes you're going to get your little like fingerprint divot or something like that. You see a really hard spot. You want to be able to just do some nice round circular motions to get that going. Okay, so we are going to put this down in the middle of this square, of your square. I'm sorry, I have the hiccups, and I'm trying very carefully not to make them too loud for you. Okay, so about halfway through, it's going to go to the edge of the fold, and then again to the edge of that part right there. Okay, so that's where your DSP goes. Now this piece here, that's your 2 by 3¼ you can either decide if you want to tape that directly down or if you want to pop it up on dimensionals. Okay, so if you want to do dimensionals, put them on the back now. If you're going straight adhesive like me, put some adhesive on the back of that. And you're going to take that to the middle again, and it leaves just a tiny bit above and below the DSP, like so. Okay. See, this works out really nice when I have an expert zoomer standing over my shoulder, and hopefully your poor arm isn't getting too tired. Okay, now you want to take that shape that you have. So I have a circle, I believe it's of a 2-something-ish inch circle that I punched out of a similar DSP. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I want to add a little color to mine. So if you have your shape and you want to do your stamping now, you're going to add your stamped images, your phrase, whatever it is, to whatever shape you picked out. Okay, so there's my Blushing Bride, and I'm going to add a little pear pizzazz where the leafing might be, and I know it's not exactly a leaf, but it needs a little green over there too. Okay, so that's just going to make it stand out a little more. I kind of like adding the color to the black and white like that. All right, and I forgot to bring my dimensionals over, so I'm going to just do my circle direct. So again, if you want to raise that up a little bit, you're going to take that circle on your dimensionals. I'm going to attach mine later with dimensionals because I like that better. Okay, if you did not already put your ribbon through the inside before we sealed it shut, here's what you're going to want to do. You're flip it over, line it up in about the middle of that inch wide piece, and I'm just going to do a simple knot. You can do a knot and a bow, whatever you decide you'd like to do. Okay, so I right over left and I pull it tight, hold it down with my finger. Everybody's always asking me how I get a good knot, and this is the way. You need a little dexterity in the fingers, and especially when you have a ribbon that's 2 different sides. So there's this glittery part on one side of this Blushing Bride ribbon, and the other is just a straight up satin. So I want to make sure both sides end up, or the sides end up the same on that particular part. Okay, you can slide that around a little bit where you want. If you want the knot to be in the middle, you can move the knot up towards the top a little bit. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do on this one, because I'll show you my stepped up version in a second, and that has my ribbon centered, so you'll be able to see both parts. Okay, so hopefully I didn't go through that too fast. It's a pretty simple layout, so I think you guys, huh? I know it's not glued. I'm going to put it on dimensionals later.
Oh.
So there you go. So that's what my finished card will look like once I put my dimensionals under it. Thank you, cameraman, for, making sure I'm doing it right. Okay, I will show you now what I did on my stepped up version. Okay, so if you could come in a little closer on that one. Okay, so you'll see the difference is I still did the color on the DSP in the background. For that layer, I actually ran it through crumpled it up in my hands a couple of times. So you can see the crinks and ridges and such. And then I did a circle plain color, and I took my bone folder and I kind of roughed up the edges a little bit. So it's got a little bit of a more beaten down kind of look. You can see those little bit of raised edges there, maybe. There we go. And then I cut out a flower from a piece of DSP very similar to this, and I colored it like I was showing you with my sponges. And then I added a little bit of Wink of Stella to it. Sometimes that doesn't always want to show up nicely on camera, but that's that sparkly glitter paint kind of a thing. And then for even more bling, I added a couple of rhinestones. Okay, so that's my very stepped up version of this card. So again, your base card, very similar to that, and your stepped up version. Okay, then I'm going to show you my inspiration piece. It was a sample that was made by my very good Stampin' friend, Amy Rich, and it features the Sweet Strawberry, which is in the January to June mini catalog. And again, same concept. So panel on the inside. She used some die cut shapes for this. So the die, the 2x3¼ piece is actually die cut. You can see some stitching and some beveled edges. And then this particular shape as well is a die cut. And then she put her phrase and her strawberry right on there. And that cute polka dot ribbon is tied in a really pretty bow. And that is actually one of the things that's on our retirement list. I can't believe they're taking that away. So if you really love that polka dot ribbon, make sure you grab some of that before it goes away. And as always, I made a couple extra samples for you. Oopsie, they're sticking together. Okay, so similar concept. I just offset this one a little bit. I also die cut a shape, kind of like Amy did. And for my phrase, I actually stamped it and then cut it up into little pieces. It says Best of Cluck all together, but I put those together. And then I used DSP here. And this is actually a neutral panel, but I sponged it with my blending brush. And I sponged it that color so it matched not quite so starkly off the back there. This is Cinnamon Cider, one of those in colors it's going to be carrying over for one more year. And I added some mossy twine, which is in the January to June mini catalog, and some of this really cute linen type ribbon that is from a double pack in another part of that catalog as well. So those are cute. And then this one here, very similar. I used some of my DSP from Playing with Patterns, a little bit of that Moonlight ribbon. I did some twine here as opposed to just the regular wide ribbon. And I added a little phrase up there that I punched out with my classic label punch. And again, I'll add a panel in there when I'm ready to go. Hey, Kathy Jo, the 2x2½ piece get used for your circle. Yeah, so basically what you want is a finished shape of some sort that is between a 2-inch and a 2.5-inch wide, and then the other way as well. So yeah, so if you have a 2x2½, or if you have a 2x2, 2.25, 2.5-inch square, that's what you want to do in the middle of your rectangular piece. So whatever shape you've made, that's where yours is going to go. Does that make sense? I hope. If you have any questions, holler back at me later if we're not live anymore, and I'll talk you through that part. All right, so there is, whoops, my samples from tonight. Oh, bring my stepped up version back in a little bit. And then I'm going to show you where I found those items that I was using. This is a January to June mini catalog, page 11. I was using the True Love Designer Series paper. So you'll see that's all black and white, but I showed you how to add color with sponging. You can always add color with your blends, markers, all that kind of stuff as well. And then there's that Blushing Bride ribbon. That's the glittery ribbon. That's what I used tonight as well. All right, so that was a quick 15 minutes again. I like to keep these pretty short because you don't all want to spend your whole night with me, I'm sure. All right, so again, if you have any questions, keep commenting here. I will post the pictures of this and the layout pattern in this thread, and then this video will go onto YouTube eventually as well. So thanks for bearing with me with my technology issues. Thank you to my husband for standing over my shoulder tonight. And there you go, guys. That is your card. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you so much. Have a good night.